So what our technology does, and we're an Australian-based company founded by a bunch of super smart people out of Canberra, and they designed a face tracking algorithm, so teaching computers how to interact and interpret what people are doing. And the primary focus for us in the logistics and transport industry is to focus on fatigue and distraction. So how we measure fatigue is just saying, can we tell if your eyes are closing? And on the other hand, we can also say, are you looking at the road or are you looking at something else within the vehicle? So what we do as a company is we have these algorithms that can track a face, and in the driver's face you can see a few things happening here. So he gets in the vehicle, he turns the vehicle on, the system turns on, and we're looking at two things. So the little green bars next to his eyes are monitoring whether the eyes are open or shut, and the little blue line off the bridge of his nose is saying, where are you looking? And what we do is we've built it into a piece of software that says, if your eyes shut at a certain rate of closure for 1.5 seconds, whilst you're traveling over a certain speed, we'll alert you. If you get distracted and look away from the road for 3 seconds, 4 seconds, whatever it is, whilst you're traveling over a certain speed, we can alert you as well. So for the first time, we can look at things like fatigue and distraction in the vehicle, and we can alert that driver right there and then. So this is the core of the technology, and this is obviously a lot of work gone into putting some hardware together, some reliable hardware together. You have a computer. It's a very powerful computer. Obviously, it's a machine that's trying to detect, first of all, that there's a face, and secondly, that it's distracted or fatigued. So vibration motor on the seat, which will wake the dead. Then we have a camera with infrared pods, and so the infrared pods create like a standard illumination for the camera to be able to run its algorithms over the top, and it also means we can see through dark glasses. So if you're wearing dark glasses to the system, it basically looks like clear glasses. And so that's the systems that's in the vehicle. Is a forward-facing camera, so we can add some extra context to what happened when that event was occurring. And we have a GPS, we can say where it was happening, what speed, and you just put a SIM card in the unit and it sends the data through the web to the database. Like I said, we have this safeguard center, so they look at these events and you know they add extra information that might be useful to you. So if we see a distraction event, somebody looking down, and the event triggers inside the vehicle, and the safeguard analysts look at that and they see a mobile phone in there, they'll tag there's a mobile phone in there, so you start to get a deeper understanding and record of exactly what's happening in those vehicles. And on the other hand, if they say, you know, that the system says, hey, you're fatigued, and they look at it and go, he's not fatigued, he's, you know, wailing away on some Celine Dion with his eyes shut, we could say he's not fatigued, but he's notifiably not doing what he's supposed to be doing, so we can follow up on that too. Our data is all cloud-based. We have an interface where you can log in, where you can start to review this data, and the great thing of working with Mix is now we can actually embed this data, link through their system, so a single interface where you can look and track all of your vehicle-related technology and you can start to really dig down and put it into context with other things happening in the vehicle. But this is, like I said, where you get to log in and you're gonna watch that video, and it's a great training tool to operate with the drivers. And so in this instance, there was a glance away event, so he looked away from the road for a period of time. Our monitoring center saw a mobile phone, so they said, yes, it is a glance away event. And additionally, we see a mobile phone in there. It lasted 4.5 seconds, and he was going 64 kilometers an hour. So during the time he had his eyes off the road, he was traveled 72 meters. On average, across all of the vehicles we have out there operating at the moment, every 41 driving hours, a driver has a fatigue event. So every 41 driving hours, somebody's falling asleep, and we can benchmark customers against this. So we have some customers here in Australia having one fatigue event in fleets every 300 plus hours. So this is really what it looks like when our system captures the fatigue event. This guy's obviously tired, he blinks a few times, and it captures that fatigue event, so, and tells us what's happening Since we implemented this driver distraction, the mobile phone tagging, we've picked up something like 15 or 16,000 events. So if my role at Seeing Machines doesn't work out, I've got 15,000 videos of drivers falling asleep, which I'm happy to take to the police if they're willing to negotiate a little commission for me. I'd never do that.
So what about, who is Mix Telematics? We are a global company. We have a true footprint across the globe, as you can see, and we have 17 offices across the world, and we operate in 120 countries worldwide. We take a lot of learnings from our different regions within the globe. So if we look at the European region, they do a lot of work in bus and coach and transport. So look, if you go to London, you're going to hop on a red bus and you're going to be tracked by Mix Telematics in the red buses. You go down to South Africa and you call the Mix Telematics head office number there, and the first thing it says to you is, if you've been hijacked, press 9 now. So very different operation to here in Australia. So we were founded in South Africa. We're listed dual on Johannesburg and New York Stock Exchange. And we can look and show proven ROI with customer retention. And as I said, we do operate in over 120 countries, and we're currently tracking over 600,000 assets globally. So when we go to market, we actually work and go to market under 4 different pillars. Those pillars being efficiency, safety, compliance, and security. And when we drill down into those, this is where we work with our customers to look at what your challenges are and how we can actually sit with you and solve those issues of your fleet. Safety is obviously always there. It's a focus looking at, real-time feedback to drivers, giving them that real-time alert so that they can actually self-correct and manage their behaviour, which is going to reduce the crashes and the incidents occurring. And then compliance, so looking at electronic work diaries. Once NHVR get that specification out, will be all good, but we do manage the rule sets. And then in terms of security, looking at vehicle tracking, looking at those real-time critical alerts for crash notifications, and then your vehicle theft and recovery. So 2014, interesting enough, was the lowest road toll since 1943. And we look at that and we say, well, why? So we've implemented things like seatbelts, bringing in demerit points, your speed cameras, and then just looking at all of those different types of speed limits, and then now random alcohol and drug testing. It all helps reduce the crashes on the roads. So essentially, road deaths per 100,000 people have reduced right up until 2016, but then in 2017, we've actually seen an increase. And that increase has been put down purely to distraction as the leading cause of crashes in mature markets. So the contributing factors to some of the crashes, and this is the statistics that have come out as to what kind of accidents they are. So nose to tail is the largest one. Collisions, a stationary object. Yes, Mr. Insurance, that power pole jumped out and hit me. Failing to give way, collisions while reversing, even though we now have reversing cameras in our most vehicles. Animal strikes, and then there's a whole lot of others that people just say, it just wasn't my fault, I don't know what happened. The leading cause for concern is that road deaths are increasing, and the distraction issue is everybody has a mobile. And that's really what's going on out there for the actual increase to start spiking up again from last year. So looking at global issues, it's happening globally. It's not just here in Australia. And as I said, it's happening in mature markets like Spain, UK, Australia. And 2 out of every 10 crashes are fatigue related. And as the last piece there says, that drivers who have been awake for 24 hours will have a similar driving performance to someone with a BAC or a blood alcohol level of 0.01. So why Seeing Machines? Why have we partnered with Seeing Machines? So I guess as Mix Telematics, it's not our core business. We don't specialise in fatigue and distraction. We do everything else in terms of vehicle tracking, utilisation, vehicle information coming through for driver behaviour. So we started to look for a partner, and we looked at everything that was out there globally. We looked at things that you would wear, and there's a lot of solutions out there that are great solutions, but the issue with road safety is the human element, and we can't just take the keys off all of our drivers, which would be the solution to having no road deaths, but we can't do that. So we looked at something, that's where we looked at Guardian, and we're like, well, there's no element of humans having to interact to make sure that the technology works. We're not reliant on a truck driver making sure that, puts something on to ensure that he measures his own fatigue. Gets in the cab, turns on the vehicle, it's there, it happens. We were looking for something that was completely scalable with our global solution, and that it was accurate. We actually went to our clients, and the question we said to our clients is what else were they looking for? So secondary utilisation, they were saying that fatigue was becoming a real issue within their fleets. So it was more than timely that we moved forward with the Seeing Machines team. So can you tell if your drivers are distracted? Well, no, but we can now. And you can do that through the mixed telematics integration with Guardian. So how does the integration work? We actually integrate with a serial integration through into our unit, and that communication comes straight through into mixed telematics. Critical alert comes through to managers straight through our system, and you can actually look at all of those events captured within our event reporting system in Mixed Fleet Manager. So it shows up on your trip timeline. So if you're familiar with our system, we can drill down to second by second tacho data and compare that with speed and RPM for crash analysis. And you can actually drill through, those events will show up within the timeline, and you can actually click on those and also see the video capture. Up to four cameras available. We have the audio available as well. The infrared sensors can look through those dark glasses and monitor at night time, and that system just works fully integrated with our own.
The purpose of this part of today, or this morning, is really to show you how Zurich assists, or risk engineering at Zurich assists and assesses risk, what the influence is of fatigue and distraction tech on risk quality, and then how risk quality influences insurance premium and pricing. So what does all this mean for Zurich? Is this just a nice idea, or is it actually deliver results? We'll look at the grading for truck fleets, so you get an idea of how we assess truck fleet risk. Look at the most prevalent causes of heavy vehicle crashes and collisions, and then get on to our view of telematics. So this is what our grading is. We have been doing gradings, risk gradings, for decades. We've got them for property, liability, etc. The motor one's been around for, well, in its original form, 25, 30 years. But we've been assessing motor fleet risk for years using a grading platform. The motor truck one has 27 factors. It's broken into those drivers, journey operations, management, and vehicle elements. And what we're trying to do is determine a level of balance. So we're reporting to yourselves when we provide the reports, as well as to underwriters, how exposed are you and how in control are you? So this is what our gradings look like. You can see over here, so if you look at mobile phones and distractions, very relevant for today, you've got a grading of C that can get to B. So we grade A, B, C, and D. We've got the results of this, which I'll show in a second, go to poor, fair, good, and excellent. But this client here with Risk Improvement Advice 1/2016 can get from C to B in mobile phone distraction management. And here's just a summary. We've got some detailed meat behind each of those of the risk improvement advice for this client. So look at those first three. That is typically in different forms. It's not the same wordage. It depends on the culture and what the client has. And those three first recommendations, which is very typical for most heavy fleet operators, are really relevant on what we're touching on today. So Brent touched on some figures before, and Lara did too, around the types of losses we see. Now, the problem with fatigue and distraction is that we don't really have empirical evidence. When we take our insurance data, actually great data from our competitors, you've got to start working backwards to get to these, and this is the context of loss. This is really, really important. If we're to look at claims data only, like the AMI results that you put up, we really only get the type of loss. We don't get what, if it comes back to this. And when you remove the insurance claims of fire, theft, hit animal, all that sort of thing, you're left with this 60 to 80%. And what is the cause of that? And it looks like it's this. Now that's speculative, I know, but it keeps coming up because the police investigations and the road authorities, they go on, if there's no tyre marks, it was a fatigue event. Now that's not an absolute definition of a fatigue event. And we don't know with distraction. We're not probing into this sort of thing. Distraction could be off the chart. But speed, fatigue and distraction. And by the way, there's another word for non-intentional called unintentional. But speed is that a chicken and egg thing? Are people, first of all, are they risk-taking speed, or are they, accidentally doing it because they're fatigued or distracted? These are issues that you can't really get to in insurance claims info, and you can't even get to it often in road authority and police investigations, because we're just not going to that level. Fault, which is an insurance term, only an insurance term, is about blame and who pays. So the reason I'm here is to say, yes, I'm an insurer, absolutely, and we pay out on fault. But to get to helping operators not have collisions or minimise their collisions, optimise their utilisation, all that sort of stuff, we've got to start thinking preventability. And so to think that, you've got to get to that. This will categorise your losses into hit in rear, fail to yield, da-da-da. This gets you to this. And then you can make a difference. So our view of telematics, an insurer's view of telematics, we have typically those delivery platforms, apps, plug and play and hardwired, and possibly some integration of all three. And these are the sort of boxes we put telematics into. Various providers typically will specialise in different areas, but reputable ones, of which Mix, I'm very proud to say, will straddle a lot of these and be able to turn bits and pieces on and off. I have seen so many telematics providers come in and out of this space. I haven't seen these sort of things happen. So I have never seen a gizmo/device hit the market and be taken up at the rate of knots that Seeing Machines have. And a very interesting model where in a lot of other cases, a client has to choose, and in the old days before Mix and the other providers had camera systems, there was that choice. Do I go a safety system, or do I go to a logistics management system? Do I go a compliance system? All that. Now the good providers have come up and integrated a lot of that. Seeing Machines' model of actually partnering and doing this, so you don't have to choose about buy their box, which you had to a couple of years ago, buy their box or buy a telematics box. It's launched off the same, which makes it so much easier, and it can grow with a telematics provider. Here's our grading. It's all of those, which is a significant chunk of our risk rating. What I'd like to say is that's a great overlap. So there's a beautiful overlap there in risk rating. But basically, a client that's doing this sort of stuff, be it either of them or two in combination, I'm going back and reporting all of this is looking more like A or B than C or D. So it has a significant impact on our risk rating. Typically, insurance for motor is claims rated when you're not running well, and if you're in the absolute best you can be and you're not claiming, you'll be exposure rated. So you're rated on your assets, that's it, that's as low as it gets. But then we had risk engineering. They discount 20% for risk excellent, discount 10% for good, it's a neutral for fair, and it's a 10% loading for poor. So all those risk factors, we have not at the level yet, even though we're years into a relationship, particularly with Seeing Machines, we're trying to get to the point of having some sort of agreement where we can link this directly. When you get to that and you're exposure rated, and these discounts and loadings still apply no matter where you sit on here as far as claims performance goes, but when your claims bottom out and you're exposure rated, and you've got to excellent, you're at the lowest that your insurance premium can be because you're fully discounted and on the lowest rating basis. If you don't get to the context of the loss and understanding the risk, you're always going to be in fault mode and you're going to be in insurable risk mode, which is only a third to an eighth of the total cost of a loss. The real world cost of having a heavy vehicle accident is much more than the insurance claim. Until we get the context and we can understand, was it distraction, fatigue, speed, then we can't start fixing it. Seeing machines, both standalone and partnered with traditional telematics, is an incredibly powerful safety management tool that strongly influences our grading, and then in turn, our grading is strongly influenced, or our pricing is strongly influenced by our grading. So that's our story. Thank you very much.